Welcome back to PI Today podcast. I'm Amelia Brummel, host of TBI Analytics podcast as well, and we are joining forces today with the one and only David Christenson of Neuro Care Pro, who is just a genius when it comes to treatment for all parts of the body, if you will, and it's done through frequency resonation. And I'm going to let David take over on. Tell us a little bit more about how did we get to this amazing product that you now have that we are so excited about getting into the care of our traumatic brain injured patients.
So I've been involved with neurological for 20 years. I was an adaptogenic herbologist in terms of products for really just pharmaceuticals and allopathics. And so I had my own neurological disorders. I'm a bit high strung, and anxiety and stress issues took over for a while in 2011, and had some what they call TIAs, and I had multiple languages. I've 200,000 studies I've read, and it basically my brain took an exit out of my I don't know, my path for a while, and no one could fix it. No one knew what it was. No one could understand it. So I, being the strong-willed human that I am, I said, okay, well, I'll do this myself. And so I was already playing with light since 2008, but not at a high level because I was into the adaptogenics. And so I started playing with the lights, and I thought, this is my formulas that were doing it from the herbologist portion of it, which if you ever learn about adaptogens, there's a whole nother discussion, but it's herbs that will give you exactly what you need when you need it.
Right.
And they've identified about 50 some of those, and it's a remarkable deal. And so I started playing with this light technology, and I started noticing things fairly quickly. And I actually didn't really have high level devices back then, but I was using them in a profound way. So, I mean, I was studying quantum physics since I was 9, and I was a bit of a prodigy in that area, and really studied mostly quantum, but astro as well. And I always had this real passion for quantum healing and quantum frequencies, and understood that everything in the world is pulse light. And so my foundation was built, and it isn't like the light bulb went on. It was like, I got this. I have this. And, the drugs were the only thing that they could offer me to not so much be a cause corrector, but sort of bring me back to, I guess more of a functional human. Right? And so, and I was also a pretty high level boxer and terrible ice skater, and I had multiple concussions. And I think I even had some early signs of CTE because I was in a very dark place. And so,
Wow.
I worked on myself, and I wouldn't say I was the most functional person at that time, but I was, certainly swinging the bat, climbing the hill. So I started progressing, and I started noticing things, and then I started doing more and more research into the quantum fields and understanding frequencies and pulse light. And I studied, all the greats in terms of, Einstein, the future of medicine is the medicine of frequencies.
Tesla.
Well, that's what we are. Tesla, you want to learn the secret of the universe, learn about vibration, energy, and frequencies.
Exactly.
You got your Nogés, the Rife people, and all that. And
Because at the end of the day, we're all just toroidal fields
we
of
are,
energy.
we are, and it's interesting, and it came to a very easy decision for me that we are light water beings.
That's what we are.
And
Yeah.
so when we treat with light and water, and I bring water up because water is an important part of this technology. I mean, you have to hydrate. You're 70% water.
Right.
And I think people don't understand that water is what's absorbing the frequencies. They all say, well, it's the mitochondria. That's indeed true. But it's the cytochrome C oxidizer. That's an enzyme in the mitochondria that's absolutely absorbing the frequencies. Water absorbs all frequencies. And so go back in time, I started seeing a real profound difference in my abilities. Some of my language skills were coming back, but not at a level I think I would ever fly to Russia and try to communicate.
Right.
But so I started seeing some really cool stuff, and then I began this journey of frequencies and development. And so I started So I went from victim to advocate, and then I went from advocate to distributor. I was distributing some of the older technology. They call it through-hole technology, monochromatic, poorly made. But it served the industry well for a lot of years, right? So
Sure.
I thought I could, and they wanted me, one of the companies, my brain started coming back at a really high level. And I mean, and they wanted me to run their company. I'm thinking, do you know that I'm like a nutty professor? I don't think you want me as a CEO, right?
Right.
I mean, maybe in another realm, you know.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
so I said, I can do this better. It was a bit dysfunctional company. They weren't really into innovations or developing it. It was really profit, profit, profit. I mean, I don't really like that word. I mean, look, we're not a nonprofit organization, but we
Sure.
also don't base my manufacturing. I don't base anything on profit margins. I don't really care about margins. What I care about, that what I make for these people who buy it and put their trust in me, that it actually works.
Yes.
And it works at the highest level possible that's within
Yes.
my ability. So as we
And that it's affordable.
well, it's got to be affordable.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's so much stuff out there. They're overcharging.
Right.
There's products on the market. I won't get into specific brand names, but one of them used to be a marijuana grow light manufacturer who's selling these panels for ridiculous amounts of money with no medical application. And it bothers me because when people buy bad products, then they say, well, I bought a red light panel and it didn't work. Well, okay, well, that's certainly one approach that you can take. So I started seeing progressions, and then my first generation was Neuro Care, or advanced Neuro Care. I was actually in the lasers too. And then I started seeing that LED was a more functional. It was safer. It was unattended therapy. It was the doctors. The reason laser is so prominent in the medical community because they're in the schools, and that's what they're taught. So with a laser, you have one patient, one laser, and a technician, and you can burn cells because it's concentrated into a tube. It's a very coherent light, right? So, and it's hard to treat certain brain care and peripheral neuropathy and various, things that we can do with laser. I'm not saying it's either LED or laser, but I think LED is the more advanced technology, particularly the pulse light medical technology portion of it. So I started developing this line, started with laser. Then I went into my first generation, which was Neurocare systems. It was a high-level device that was had all the pulse rates into the control box. So the beauty of that was the art of the technology was in the box. So you didn't really have to think much. You went through a frequency sheet, and if you said, okay, brain care, or I have nerve dysfunction, boom, 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 hit a couple buttons, and away you go. Then I started seeing some surface-mounted. I had the ability or the privilege to get involved early on with surface-mounted diode technology, which is basically taking superconductors with chipsets. It's a microchip, and then loading it with various diodes. And so that got me really going, thinking, man, I started pondering, thinking I can start to do multiple nanometers at one time, where laser's one, right? It's a monochromatic device. And so I was really on the early stages of SMD. A lot of that came out of Japan and Taiwan. They were incredibly brilliant in the approach. And people don't think, the quality of the diodes matter. It matters. The gallium quality matters. The semiconductors matter. All of it matters because pure photonic energy with superconductors makes that equipment that much more advanced. And so do the frequencies and the algorithms behind the frequencies. Okay, so I went into Gen 2, which was Neuro Care Pro, right? And that was the whole nother level. And even Gen 1 was more advanced than anything on the market. Gen 2 wasn't even close. Now we're on Gen 3, generation 3. And so it's now where we're going into some advanced stuff, like what I call web technology, right? My goal is to advance this to a degree, because I work with refractive indexing and bending light, and because I look at the DNA sequencing, the epigenome and serotomes, and I look at how the imaging release of like I can take dead tissue to live tissue. I can literally take scars, create angiogenesis, right? Then the serotomes will kick in and go, okay, which it's a signaling imaging release, and the 2 is an MIT anti-aging quotation, not important here. So it will then release the nerves to the new tissue, and it will make that tissue now functional tissue, right? The reason tissue dies and reason scars don't come back because it doesn't have capillary beds. You see people with lesions, it'll heal, fall off, heal, fall off. And the reason it doesn't have enough capillary beds or a microscopic vascular system to support the tissue. So we started playing with all this really cool stuff, and now the Gen 3, I've been doing brain care for probably the longest because I was a victim, and that's probably the one that's closest to my heart. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing seminars for peripheral neuropathy, nerve dysfunction, and so I really studied the brain and have some spectacular SPECT scans that would blow you away. I mean, we are penetrating the brain skull, and when you see the increase in blood flow in the gray matter, it's stunning after what's happening in 6 weeks.
Right.
The body knows what to do with blood flow. Okay. The biggest issue, all neurological and neuropathic issues have two things in common. Loss of blood flow and inflammation.
Right.
So when you increase the blood flow, the inflammation dissipates very quickly. Yeah, so brain care has always been really close to my heart. And I started looking at hemispherically designed brain caps where the left frontal lobe and the right cerebellum, I mean, it's the crossing of the axons and spheres. Yeah, it's just so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So I started using that, and then I started really understanding our penetration will blast right through the skull. We do 11 inches of penetration because I spend the most money on the diodes, the 810s, 4 times the cost of any diode. People ask, why would you do that? Because I'm looking for efficacy. I want to penetrate bones, osteo.
Right.
So after the end of the day, now we have a whole program, brain care. We actually have, it's a little premature to talk about, but we've restored kidney disease now. We're on our 5th trial case just to see, and we'll support kidney disease, but the results are off the charts.
Right.
Yeah, and so wound healing is really huge with this technology now. Wow. And so, again, I started at early stages when the industry was in the beginning stages of it.
Yeah.
And here we are now.
Where it was just known as like woo-woo medicine.
Yeah.
But now
I think a lot of people still think it's woo-woo medicine.
It is. It's still, coming up, but but more accepted now.
Yep.
And then when you have the results that you do, it's going to spread. The exposure is going to be out there. Yeah. And when it's universal, the way you have it, you don't have to carry this big old people get into a hyperbaric chamber or, the eggs or, there are different modalities that are out there that people would put into this category. I know it's not the same. Right. However, you have made these so mobile that my hips, for example, are, very fatigued by being 6 feet tall and sitting in a car for a number of hours a day or at my desk or what have you, and then have played volleyball and been very active. I can't wait to show
when you told me you live an hour away, I was thinking, okay, so you can treat your hips at least 2 times on the way home.
Yes, and so I put a pad on each side. It's versatile, it's mobile, and and I'm going to get my treatment as I'm in the car. I mean, how many people could use a device like this for themselves? Yeah. And when our back our backs are in pain, it affects everything.
Oh, it does.
The spine.
One of the things that was most stunning to me, we have a director of business development working with us who is a high-level yogi instructor, hot yoga. She was stuck in a pretzel position for 2 weeks in bed. She always had her back go out every 4 to 6 weeks. I ran into her husband at the beach, and I said, well, he's with his daughter, and I said, where's your wife? And he told me the story, and I went home, and I, happened to have a pad at my home at that point, and I gave it to him. I said, okay, I want her to do this, this, and this. She treated for 3 days, got up, and was like, what in the heck is this?
Yeah.
I mean, so when that sciatica comes out, that channel it sits in is inflamed, so it pops out super easy.
Sure.
Take that inflammation, it'll sit in the channel.
Yeah.
She's actually sold her studios shortly thereafter and came working full time.
Wow.
Because she's in love with the technology.
Wow.
Yeah, it's stunning. And low back, nerve disorders, brain care, wound healing, organ restoration, leaky gut, spinal decompression. We'll have to go through this when we're in the next meeting, but we'll show you how to decompress your spine with this technology. If you ever vasodilated your spine, it's a very incredible
experience, huh? Wow.
Yeah, and you can actually drain your lymphatic system with this and improve your immune system.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And people go, well, where does the fluid go? It's not an oil change. Your body absorbs it and it just brings in new fluid. And increases the T cells so you're able to fight. I haven't been sick in literally 50 years. I don't get flus, I don't get colds.
Right.
No, because my immune system has always been good, but I've been active with it, especially with this day where there's so many viruses in in our world. I don't get sick. Now maybe I'll get a cold today. Because the cameraman has a cold.
But when the mind is already shut off from getting that,
Yeah.
it's amazing how if you don't allow it, it's not going to happen.
Well, we talked at our discussion earlier about how the mind is so strong.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you said that.
Yep.
Because it is so powerful.
It is the most powerful thing we have. And if you don't feed it with the right thoughts, then it's a breakdown in your whole system. So it definitely is the starting point. And but yes, I am so happy. And I had forgotten to mention in the beginning of the show how we met. I met you at a A4M conference.
You did.
And it was a few years ago in Vegas. They have this amazing conference that brings in wellness from all over, whether mind, body, and soul. It doesn't matter. I have a whole track called Amelia's Wings of Wellness that we are definitely going to highlight on that show with this episode for sure, because these are the things like I like to talk about is the out of the box type treatments that most people just aren't even aware of. Because you're not going to find this in your mainstream hospitals and your doctor's offices and your, big pharma type producers, because it actually does heal the body without having to go get a prescription for it and having to, go through the red flags of whatever you have to do in order to get the care that you deserve, So I'm always highlighting these amazing products, and that's when I was there helping out BrainTap, who you have also partnered with in many ways.
They distributed my equipment.
Right, and so right up at that alley, I remember meeting you and putting a brain cap on right away to see what this was like, and I'll even demonstrate it for the viewers right now, but just how easy it is to, get this treatment. And so you just, have this nice little comfy
it's very light.
Helmet,
Yeah.
very light.
Very light.
You don't even know it's on your head.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I forget.
Yeah.
You look like you're going to go to Venus, as you say, especially with these speakers on. But then you just hit the frequency you want, and that is explained on this pamphlet that they have.
Yeah.
And it really highlights just exactly what you're getting with each frequency. And we've got physical stress relief, mental acuity support, anti-aging, neuropathic pain. So no matter what you are dealing with, what you're going through in your life, this is a product for you, and it's affordable, and it's easy to use, and
super easy to use.
It's incredible.
Particularly with people with brain injuries, it cannot be complex or frustrating. It needs to be super easy to put on, super easy to turn on. Go to your setting. Look, B1, B2. We also, there's been studies for years now that know that that Alzheimer's has a amyloid beta 42 protein, which is a toxic protein. Some call it tau, T-A-U, and that is being. There's the early studies suggest that this is the future of neurological disorders, because your choices are very simple. I mean, you have drug therapy, you have neurofeedback, and then you have maybe some binaural beats or some audible treatments like a brain tap, and they can do a lot of really cool things.
Sure.
But there's also limitations to what that can do. You're dealing with an audible frequency absorption versus a physical with light therapy. So even though you probably will hear frequencies when you have the light up to your ears, I don't know if you picked up on that. You can actually hear the frequencies. Yeah. So it's really cool that the brain care is super easy to administer. And what's also great is that the control box has everything in it.
Right.
And so some of the generations, the third gen, you can go to any frequency you wish.
Right.
So if you say, hey, I saw this, the love frequency 528, and I want experiments
you
with
just
it.
go 528.
528, you go right to it. Or, I want some
Wow.
cellular restoration. I know that 432 delivers that. You go right to 432. And so we made it really easy for people to get in tuned with the frequencies, because we are light water beings.
Yes.
You can treat with anything you wish, but when you treat with what you are, light and water at special frequencies, the body just loves it. It absorbs it. And for the listeners who understand, don't know what to buy, it ain't about power. You hear these commercials. We have the powerest or the most powerful bed on planet Earth. We have the most powerful this.
Right.
I could make this so powerful for pennies on the dollar. I mean, another $3, I could make your eyebrows melt. It isn't
Right.
about power.
Right.
It's about permeation into the cells, refractive indexing, bending light.
Yes.
Because I got to go around a lot of red platelets, and I got to move it into the tissue and at the right frequency. I want the body to absorb it and hug it, not
Yes.
I mean, is anyone listener can tell me, what does the body like in heavy doses? Alcohol, no. Water, no. Food, no. Sun, no. It wants it gently administered, and then it absorbs, and it reacts very favorably. So when you can do that, then you get these crazy results. The body knows you can initiate. All that's really doing is initiating the body's own healing ability.
own healing
It knows how to
ability.
heal.
Exactly.
Get out of its way.
Sure.
Give it some blood flow.
Yes.
Bring the nourishment, glucose, oxygen, nutrients, and here's a kicker: remove the cellular waste. You got these people who want to burn cells. Well, you already have cell fatigue. We age, we have cell fatigue, right? Remove the cellular waste, bring blood flow to a biocyte, and it's incredible.
Wow.
I write some articles for Trade Magazine. I don't do a lot of that now, but I did for years. And one of them was a massage magazine thing, and a massage therapist drove her shoulder into the side of a mountain, skiing, obviously.
Skiing.
Yeah, and she had 13 breaks, shattered it. And so the
Wow.
orthopedic said, it's going to be 16, 18 weeks before you're healed, and then we got to remove the hardware and let that heal, and go back to it. She found me, got a hold of one of my systems, and so she treated for 6 weeks, twice a day. She went into the orthopedic, and he flipped the gasket. He was like, holy man, I've never seen bone growth like this, ever.
Ever.
And he goes, what have you been doing? She goes, oh, this light therapy. Oh, light therapy. What else have you been doing?
Right.
They dismiss
Just
it.
bypass
It's
it.
like you've never seen this before, but you
Yeah.
dismiss it.
Right.
Which is, okay.
Like it can't be that.
That can't be that,
Yeah.
right? So it's interesting. I don't know if I told you the story. I tried to reach him several times thinking, I'm on a white horse with a shield. This guy's going to love me, right?
Right.
He wouldn't even return my calls. I met him when I met you at the A4M show.
Okay.
And he finally ran into him, and I walked up to him and said, "You remember me? I've been trying to reach you just because I wanted to find out why you wouldn't want this in a larger portion of your office or with more patients, expand it." He goes, "Well, you cost me money." I said, "Help me with this." He goes, every week that patient comes in, I have an X-ray machine that I lease. I have to pay for this machine. The MRI machine down the hall, I get proceeds. We all paid for that.
Right.
He goes, now I have to get 2 patients to replace the one that you healed in 6 weeks. So why would I want your technology?
Crazy, huh?
So when a medical system is based on money. It's broken.
Over the
It's broken.
patient.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how
broken.
we get it back on track. I think it's going to be with people who have a whole lot more insight and power than I do. But this is right at our fingertips. This
Right.
is stuff that we can do today.
Right.
You mentioned Royal Rife. It was he was working with the University of Southern California on resonant frequencies, blowing up cancer cells in the 1930s. I don't know if any of your listeners would remember. Is it Memorex or is it live? Right, the singer would match the frequency of the crystal vase, and it would blow up.
Right.
Well,
right.
it's the same thing
It's the
that,
same
that
thing.
Royal Rife was doing with cancer cells.
Yep,
He was a
exactly.
virologist and an oncologist. He had a very special listening device, and he was just a genius at figuring out the parallels of cells. And he got sideways. I'm not going to get into too technical, but
Sure.
the whole world thought it was monomorphism that turned into cancer, and then he discovered it was polymorphism. Multiple viruses turned into cancer. But he was really, really successful. Then it got to the point where the big pharma said, "Whoa, hey, hold the roll here." And what happened after that, I don't have any line of sight to, other than what the authors wrote, and I'd let your readers pick up that on their own, since but it is fascinating
Yeah.
what we can do with technology that people think is simple. It is simple, but we are simple whitewater beings. And when you do some simple math, treat with what's simple. Don't get too complicated. I mean,
Right.
how many people do we talk to have vitamin D deficiencies? Why is that? Well, 85% of Americans decided and were taught that going out in the sun is bad. The
Right.
sun is a healing element.
Exactly.
Too much of anything.
Or to, like, what our friend Connie would say is take off the sunglasses. That light is good for your eyes.
You're absolutely, and Connie's absolutely right. There was a
Yes.
study, 16 people were told to go outside that had tumors in various parts of their body. One guy kept his sunglasses out. Each person had a reduction of tumors 30% or
Oh
better.
my gosh.
The one person that didn't see any difference was the guy with the
Sunglasses.
sunglasses.
Wow.
So it's
Right
fascinating.
there. So simple.
It's so simple. And the other thing that's fascinating to me is I dated a gal years ago. I won't get into specifics. I'm not going to get a
why
love
not,
card.
David?
I'm not going to get a love card. She had acid reflux. She would say, I got this procedure. We were at dinner, and I go, oh. And she goes, we're not going to be able to see each other next week. And I said, oh, okay. I said, do you want to tell me what it is, or is this a mystery? She goes, oh, I have acid reflux. I said, well, you can treat that with water. She goes, I hate water.
What?
I go, well, okay, you don't drink water? She goes, no. I go, what do you drink? She goes, oh, coffee and teas and sick. So you don't drink water, but you'd rather go get a procedure.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. I was in an area with a real estate agent looking for some property just last week, and I said, how much water do you drink? He goes, oh, I don't really care for water. It's like, guys, do you realize that you're 70% water, or should be?
Right.
I
And
mean-
what's the movie that you want people to watch?
Well, I didn't
About
write
water?
it or anything. It's The Secret of Water.
Right.
Water's a little bit more complex than people think. Right? It absorbs all frequencies. It's healing element. Drinking healthy water out of the right containers is incredibly important. So
Yes.
water's important and if you go into my center, my showroom, you'll see 120 gallons of distilled water there. And you'll see the mat that says hydrate, place lights, relax, repeat. But the first one is hydrate.
Hydrate.
And if you came to me and said, I can only afford, which is a silly thing to say, but I
Right.
can only afford lights or water, I'd say, go drink some water and come
Right.
back and see me.
Right.
Hydrate, man. I mean, I was at this anti-vaccine thing. I was invited to it in Ocala, which I believe your cameraman brought up at lunch. They were talking about all the health issues related to the vax shots, long haul COVID. We won't get into that. But the last 5 words and the first words were hydrate, 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 hydrate. Of all the things that all the things that they had in the arrows in their quiver, hydrate was number 1 on their list.
Wow.
And it's amazing how many people don't drink enough water. And
Right.
just hydrate, man.
Just
Hydrate and put
hydrate.
on lights and watch what happens to your body.
Right.
It's stunning.
Yeah. Get that blood flowing. And belief is the other thing we were talking about.
Oh my, yeah.
Yep. You got to
So-
have that belief system.
Don't underestimate the strength of the mind. I love the way you said that, Amelia.
Yes.
It was so apropos. You said it better than I did.
Yes.
I had an acupuncture school buy a bunch of systems. Acupuncturists love this technology. And because if you have a pain in your back, they put a needle in your hand and people can't wrap their brain. Americans can't get that.
Right.
The
Right.
pain's in
Wait,
my
the
back.
pain's
Why are you
there.
putting it in
right.
here?
The meridian
Right.
system.
So they bought a bunch of systems and they were in school for 3 days. And they called me and said, your systems, the whole class was on, I was on a version of a Zoom on my cell phone. And they said, everybody loves this. They're all screaming, 50 of them. Oh. And they said, but one problem. And I said, well, what was that? And they said, the red light didn't go on. I said, the red light didn't go on. She goes, yeah. She goes, we forgot to plug it in for 3 days. And that just tells you the power of the mind.
Yeah, placebo effect.
The mind can repair the body. In fact, if you look at drug studies,
Yeah.
the placebo runs 40%. It is more effective than the actual drugs.
It's insane.
Isn't it?
Come on.
I mean, so
That's
the mind,
the power of the mind.
The mind. Get rid of the words you say
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
It's if this happens. Oh, the woe is me.
Right.
Change your words. Change the way you think.
Change
It's
the
the law of
words.
attraction.
It
And if
really
you don't
is.
think it's real, well, it's real. Let me
It's
tell
real.
you. I'm a quantum physicist, and I can tell you it's real.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is where it takes me to Joe Dispenza's story. If you
Great
don't know
story.
Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about the quantum field and how you can heal anything. He was hit by a massive truck, one of these big old semis on a bicycle, I believe. and snapped his back in multiple places, was told he's never going to walk again. He'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And he said, no way. And without one needle in his back, without one surgery, he healed his whole back. The power of the mind. He literally thread with his own thoughts the surgical procedure. And incredible. And so he's a walking testimony of that. You're a walking testimony of this. You were just recently in a moped scooter type of accident.
Let me tell
having
you,
some fun, huh?
The Asians
you wanted to really try your products out.
They know how to ride scooters. Us guys, they got 6 people on one scooter.
Oh, gosh.
I'm just cruising along, minding my own business, right? They come out of nowhere, hit the brakes, 40 miles an hour into the side of the road.
Oh, boy.
As silly as this is going to sound, that 3 weeks in a French Vietnamese hospital was an incredible 3 weeks. I don't regret 1 minute of it.
I remember talking to you when you were in that hospital.
I mean, I do regret the fact that I have to build myself back up physically, which is, I'm getting closer. Obviously, I can start doing the work, the exercise again. But that was such a reflective moment in time. If you go through an event like that and you find every event since I was 9, I always find the positive.
The silver lining.
You have to know the positives. Take the negatives and learn it, but let it go. What's the positive of what happened? I reflected. I'm like one of your colleagues that's in this building. We don't stop.
Right.
Well, the universe said, guess what?
You're stopping.
You're stopping. So for 3 weeks, and I got to tell you, the French Vietnamese hospital, the cuisine was, wow.
Oh, that's
my
so neat.
goodness, great. Well, as they said, French and Vietnamese, those are the 2 favorite cuisines.
Sure.
Pho, and then the next meal was sea bass and green sauce and capers.
Such healthy.
I didn't say, it was fabulous. So, but they couldn't understand why I wouldn't take pain medications. Pain is a state of mind.
It is.
And if you have pain too long, it becomes a neurodegenerative disorder. It affects, well, we'll let the neurologist talk to you about that, since I stay in my lane. But it does affect, it becomes a neurological disorder, and you start to become depressed and anticipate pain. And I'm not one of these, put your hand on the Bible and say hallelujah.
Right.
But if the power of prayer or the power of mind is so strong, you got to believe it.
Yep.
Because I've lived it. I mean, I was a high-level boxer, and if you can't manage pain, then you should never be a boxer. And let me tell you something. They couldn't believe I didn't need pain medication. It wasn't because I'm Iron Man, because you manage that portion of your brain. It's a mindset. Put it on the shelf, and this is where you put your mind.
Yeah.
And watch what happens. Your body will say, I guess I'm not in that much pain.
Yeah.
You're smarter and more powerful than the nerves who run your body.
Wow.
Don't forget who runs the body. It's the brain.
Exactly.
Right? And if you understand how to manage it. Now, my ex-wife would have some things to say about that, but like I told her I healed my brain, she would differ with that. She would say, that's not true. He's a fibber.
That's a whole other podcast.
But no, the power of the mind's incredible. It really is.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so tell me some of the testimonials that these neurologists are giving you for their patients.
It's
Tell
stunning.
me what you're seeing and hearing.
It's stunning because neurologists, who doesn't see a neurologist with nerve dysfunction?
Right.
Pretty much everybody does.
Right.
And most providers make you do that. That's sort of the deal when you go through that.
Standard of care.
Exactly right. And they have, very few of them treat. Some of them do offer some treatment. But when we get this technology in neurologists' hands, they're like, they can't even believe what this is.
Wow.
They're like blown away how
Wow.
quick and effective and just how the broadness of it, how the scope of how much you can actually correct.
Yes.
And we had one neurologist who plays pickleball, which is an orthopedic dream, as I think I might have mentioned. I mean, seniors going horizontal on.
Sure.
I mean, that's
the knees.
If I had an orthopedic
the
center, I'd put a tent up next to the pickle courts. Right? More kidding, but he plays pickleball, and he was running around the tournament treating people, going, you're not going to believe this technology. This is a neurologist.
Right.
And they really have drug protocols is really what they go to. Most of them that's their go-to. And when they understand that this is more effective, non-invasive, non-addicting, non-damaging to the liver, kidneys, I mean, why wouldn't you give this a go?
Yeah.
I mean, it is incredible. And it's not just one thing. If you buy a brain cap, or you decide that you peripheral neuropathy, or you have some nerve dysfunction, you got a controller that can do everything in your body.
Right.
So it's not like you can't put it on your, say you buy a brain cap and I want to do an LED facial. Several people flip it around and actually
just put it on their face,
and it'll literally create collagen elasticity. Yep. Oh yeah.
The collagen frequency on there.
Absolutely. So you can do so much with this.
Yeah.
And share it with other family members. The only time I say about cross contamination is if you're going to go outside your family.
Sure.
You should probably look at some sort of cleanse barriers because we take this cross contamination fairly seriously.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be in a home, the son, the daughter, the family, the husband, all can use the same system.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, so for any real treaters out there that are seeing patients for really any kind of injury, this is something that you want to take a look at.
Yeah.
And then, for personal use as well, you don't have to have a prescription for this, but when we're in the medical legal space, it's typically, what is needed is a prescription for treatment. But yes, we are going to be able to expose this through our providers out there, and this is going to be wonderful for these patients. I'm so excited that we're able to be in this timeline of technology and to have your brains here still with us, even though many times as trying to get you out.
I've been trying to take, they try to take me out several
trying
times.
to take you out.
Yeah, what's really amazing about the personal injury space? If you look at the top 4 categories of breaks, it accelerates the healing process. The brain care, which I think we defined.
Yeah.
Wound healing.
The wound healing.
I mean, it's such an amazing. I mean, you can literally reduce the healing time by 2/3.
Right.
I mean, it's simple biophysics 101. Triple the blood flow.
You have a burn on your hand, right? Or
I do.
scrape?
Yeah, that was 3rd-degree burns.
3rd-degree burns.
Yeah.
Yeah, you barely can see it.
I need adult supervision at the office. I was playing with a distiller. Looked just like the other one, but the water came out of this hole and sprayed scalding water at me. So,
oh no!
Yeah, so I have someone working on it.
You really are trying to take your own products to
I figure it this way. Someone's got to try this new stuff.
You're a guinea pig for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have some periodicals that we're working on, and one of the guys who's writing an excerpt for one of them had a failing kidney disease, right? And he's a doctor of psychology, and we're bringing back that braincare.org, which we'll talk about, off table here. But he had a kidney function in the 22-23% range.
Yeah.
Not quite in dialysis because you're usually below 20, but definitely on the donor program, and hoping someone could give him a kidney. He started treating with my system for about 2 months. He's at 94% kidney function now. He completely restored his kidney.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and when we talk about excretion points, liver, lungs, you treat that once one is off, the kidneys, they're all off.
Yeah.
So you got to treat not necessarily all of them, but understand that your body has 12 major systems, and you need to get that frequency correct.
Yes.
And you need to figure out how to clear some of those frequencies, because it might sound, well, I don't get this. Well, your body does, and you've got to get get those systems operating and those cells operating on the frequency in which they're designed to operate.
Exactly, because all organs are operating at a different frequency.
That's right.
Than what they're supposed to be at. And I also can see this as a good combo with blood cord stem cell treatment as well.
Yeah.
We are also implementing that into the med legal world.
Yeah.
And for this combination, I can see this just.
Well, we have history with that.
Yeah.
So this is approved, and I'm not going to get into what the FDA and why they haven't expanded it. That's just not a conversation.
That's another podcast.
That's another 5 podcasts.
Right.
But
Yes.
it does definitely help with stem cell production,
Mm-hmm.
and it's well documented, which comes from bone marrow, and of course spine stimulates it. So when you have your stem cell and your exonome injections.
Yep.
They typically have a lot of static communication in the biosite, particularly the knees or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when you get that light therapy in conjunction with
Right, because
that,
you
the results are
increase
much
the
better.
blood flow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now you're increasing all of it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and they're using it on on reproductive organs now. They're still
Yep.
learning that in vitro fertilization.
Yeah.
Success is going up. Much of that reproduction stuff is loss of blood flow,
Yes.
inflammation, particularly with the females. It has a tendency to create the issues, and so they're using it everywhere now.
And this is a good treater. You just mentioned just the other things you can use it for, but you hear people still suffering from long COVID and brain fog and any kind of COVID repercussions. You can truly treat yourself with this product.
Yeah, we get a lot of that, actually. We get a lot. I mean, right after COVID, maybe like 9 months after, we had doctors calling me and just emotionally wrecked that they were losing patients, were dropping like flies.
Yeah.
The myocarditis, the long haul COVID is
Yeah.
all inflammation based. I mean, if you
Right.
look at what long haul COVID is, it's not complicated. It's inflammation in the brain.
Inflammation of the brain.
Sure. So get that inflammation out of there. There was one incident that was a woman who didn't leave the house for 6 months, long haul COVID a patient, and a doctor treated her who's an operator with our systems. She didn't really want to do the brain tap. I guess they had to talk her off the ledge a few times to do it, but she finally did it. And she did 2 treatments that day, went home with an unusual headache is how she defined it, woke up completely normal, went and played shuffleboard that evening with her friends, and she's never looked back.
Wow.
One treatment.
Wow.
The other thing I want to mention on things, so when you have a stroke, it's a collapse of the peripheral vascular system in the brain, right? And same thing with a heart attack, right? Same concept of a collapse but let's go back to the brain. So you have a lot of cells. The reason that this happens is because those cells are lacking oxygen, which is common sense to most any listener here. But what's interesting to note here is that those brain cells have enough oxygen to retain life but not be functional. Many of them. So we're seeing really incredible things post-strokes. We've had people that literally went into a wheelchair on a doctor's office, walked out.
Wow.
Not because this is a miracle, but because it's a vasodilator. The listeners would know what the sexual enhancement drugs are, and one of the precursors of it is sildenafil. It creates nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. We don't need to talk about it. There's a mixed company in this room and elsewhere. But we all know what it does. And so light therapy does the same thing. It's a vasodilator. So when you have a collapse of the peripheral vascular system in the brain, and those cells, all they need is a boost. They need blood. Let's give it some blood and let's kick it into gear. Those cells come back almost within minutes.
Wow.
Now there is angioneurogenesis that takes longer, but those cells are alive. They're just not quite functional.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's why those results can be so stunning and so quickly experienced.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, we could cover so much that
I'm
it would
a
take us all
long-winded
day.
human. Yeah.
I love it though. And so I think we will have to have another podcast with you to discuss more. But for now, I'm so glad we were able to get this information out. It is incredible what you're doing. I'm so grateful for you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And anybody that's interested in getting their own, you can go to www.neurocarepro.com.
That's right.
And then soon we will be able to have our own patients going through TBI analytics, and anybody else out there, that's interested, we can definitely talk.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you told me about brain map. Like we're doing some biomarking, brain mapping, and
and what we're doing on the imaging level.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
We are going to, between this technologies and what you have,
Yes.
we're going to be able to discuss what it is, figure out what it is, set the biomarkers, and then track it.
Right.
I mean, that's just never been done before.
Right.
And it's so exciting. This is a field that has so much opportunity.
Yes, it does.
Exciting, isn't it?
So we are on the verge.
Yeah.
So when we watch this years later, we're going to look back and go, wow, remember when
Yeah.
we were on the surface of helping so many people.
That's right.
Because we joined forces and divine guidance got us here. So so cool. And it's because we've got that mindset to knowing that there are good things out there, and universe is going to bring those people together.
Yeah,
so
it's the people need to open their eyes and realize there's options.
Yes.
Don't give up, man. Just because somebody says you need to do this or this and this.
Yeah, or label you that you have this.
No, that's nonsense. Give it up. You are your own master.
Yes.
They are not.
Exactly.
So don't forget who's running the show in your body. It's you.
Yes.
Right?
Master of your own design.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I like to think every cell has I bought a book called The Physics of Cells, but
every cell.
It's fascinating what we are when you understand the sophistication of a human body and what we're capable of.
Yes.
look beyond your nose. There's
Yes.
such a wide world out there. You just got to open your eyes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, be one with light.
that's right.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today again on PI Today's podcast. We are interviewing anybody that is bringing solid evidence and solid experience to this PI world that's going to help somebody get into a better state of mind, a state of being. Well, we want to know. And thank you, David Christenson, for joining us today and for your brilliant mind. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.